Hey everyone, it's Jacob. In 2014, I wrote a book called The Future of Work. And in that book, I created a concept and an image called the evolution of the employee, which looks at how employees are evolving and changing and what organizations need to do to adapt. I actually shared that image on LinkedIn fairly recently and it went completely viral. It got over 1 million views on LinkedIn and thousands of interactions and engagements and comments around the world. In fact, it became so popular that I decided to expand on that concept a little bit, and I put together a brand new PDF which goes into more detail looking at what that evolution of the employee looks like and also provides action items for what you and your organization can do to evolve and adapt as a result. So if you want to get access to that PDF, go to thefutureemployee.com. Again, that is thefutureemployee.com.
By the way, the world is fine. Look outside. It's not overwhelmed. It's not confused. It's not out of control. It's doing exactly what it does. It's only your relationship to that world that's the issue.
Hello and welcome everyone to a special episode of the Be Your Own Boss podcast. Our guest today, David Allen, somebody who I'm sure many people are familiar with. He is the best-selling author of Getting Things Done, the Getting Things Done method, and his book is called The Art of Stress-Free Productivity. David, thank you very much for joining us.
Hey guys, happy to be here. Thanks for the invitation.
Oh, of course. So why don't you jump? You can ask the first question.
Yeah. So joining us all the way from the Netherlands, David.
Amsterdam.
Yeah, from Amsterdam. All those beautiful tulips. I actually used to work at a company called the International Quality and Productivity Center. So clearly there's this obsession with productivity. I'm curious to know what inspired you to write an entire book about productivity.
Because productivity sucks. I'll try to be a little more oblique or honest about that. Productivity has a lot of baggage around it as a word. It just means working harder, working better, whatever. Everybody is actually as productive as they need to be right now because that's what you've got. You guys produce this. You produced this conversation. You produced what you're wearing. You produced what you ate for dinner or eating for dinner. You know, you're producing all the time. When people say productivity, they say, how can I be more productive? Which means, given the energy I'm putting into stuff, can I get more out of it? Or given what I'm producing out of it, can I do with less energy so I can leave work sooner or leave my stuff, do more cool things I want to do? So when you say productivity, that has a lot of strange things about it. It's really about what do you want to experience? What do you guys want to experience when you get off this with me? You want to be more relaxed? Do you want to digest your food? You want to make sure you have quality time with your kids? Do you want to, you want to make sure you're moving forward on hiring the vice president, or getting your kids into the right school, or making sure you get the right insurance policy for whatever you yada yada. So a lot of what I uncovered was, how do I get clear about all that so I could just be free and present and not distracted by anything at the rest of my life? Well, that's not free. So I just uncovered the policies or the structures or the frameworks you needed to do to make sure that happens.
And for people who are not familiar with the framework, I'm going to read how it's defined online, and you can correct if anything needs updating. But the Getting Things Done method rests on the idea of moving all items of interest, relevant information, issues, tasks, and projects out of the mind by recording them externally and then breaking them into actionable work items. And this allows attention to be focused on taking action on tasks instead of recalling them. Would you say that's a pretty fair summary and description of what the approach to getting things done is?
Perfect.
That's simple, right?
Well, that's simple, but just go do that. That's not that simple.
Yep, exactly. Have you found is this something that entrepreneurs struggle with more than people who have traditional full-time jobs?
Well, anybody who has jumped themselves into a new world that they don't understand totally appropriately yet, don't know how to get control of and feel stable about yet, that's who this is for. And entrepreneurs are a ripe audience for that, obviously.
Yeah.
As an entrepreneur or a potential entrepreneur, wow, I want to unhook from my global financial company that I've been an executive with, but I'd really like to start my own startup with my idea that I thought that could be really cool. Yeah, anybody in that kind of context is going to have a lot of hats they need to wear. They need to wear a hat for the banker. They need to wear a hat for the potential partner. They need to wear a hat for quality of life with my family, about this change. And, so absolutely throw somebody into that kind of situation. An entrepreneur, unless they have all the resources, they could hire 4,300 people to then handle all the aspects they've already defined they need to be handled. That even those people, and by the way, I've coached several of those, they're out of control themselves about how do I manage all of that? Oh my God, I've created so much. So the idea of an entrepreneur, meaning there's something I want to do that could create value, that I could then produce that value and express it and share it with the world, and maybe make money out of sharing with the world.
I feel like for Blake and I, both of us, sometimes we struggle with the stress-free productivity because so much stuff stays in your head that I find that we'll randomly be talking and like, remember, we gotta do this, we gotta do
that. How old do you need to be to find out your head's a crappy office?
That's
when
great.
When are you guys going to learn that?
Yeah.
I need cat food. I need to figure out, should we adopt? I need to hire a vice president. When are you going to get that off your mind so it doesn't wake you up at 3 o'clock in the morning?
We try to use Asana.
Yeah.
That doesn't work. I'm sorry. That will let you relax a little bit and let you sort of relax and not pay so much attention to what's going on in those other worlds. But you can't stop the noise of those other worlds until you engage with the appropriate processes to capture, clarify, organize, and reflect on what those things are that you've committed to. So you can't get out of this by drinking or meditating.
No escape.
Or saunaing. I love saunas. Yeah, I love them. Yeah, they're great.
So David, I meditate, I admit. Don't drink, but yeah, meditation usually works, but sometimes it doesn't. So you're the ultimate productivity expert, and I imagine that you're like living your own art. So I know that our audience would love to hear what your day is like. Do you wake up and do a mind dump with a
No, don't need to. I've already done that. That's been done. I do it as soon as they show up.
Tell us about your perfectly stress-free, productive day. What does that look like? What are your hacks that you use personally?
Most of them. The night before, I look at all the hard landscape I've committed to. What are the things I've committed to other people? I would be with them at some time tomorrow, so I know how long I can sleep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now at age 75, that's one of my critical factors. How long I love sleep. Sleep is great. I'm doing all kinds of things in the sleep, that's not happening otherwise. So that lets me know when I need to wake up. Now we have a new puppy. So waking up is going to happen no matter what. So, why she needs to go out and do her puppy thing. And then I have a little bit of a personal ritual with my wife. We drink lemon juice in the water, so we cleanse our system. We have a wonderful hard, French press coffee we share. I get on my easy couch or easy chair and open my iPad and read the New York Times and the Dutch news, local news, and do a couple of games of Word with Friends to sort of trigger my brain to start thinking. And then I relax and have no other plans other than what I have committed to today. And everything else is a total intuitive judgment about all the other options I might do today. But those have already been decided. They've already been cataloged. They've already been tracked in my external system. So that's what I do. And then I plan as little as I have to so I can be free to make intuitive choices about what I do. But I don't. My brain is freed up to not have to remember what I need to do. It's all out here.
So I thought maybe we could walk through the 5 steps, because people who are listening or watching might not be familiar with them. And the steps are capture, clarify, organize, review, and engage. So can you give us maybe 1 or 2 sentences about each one of them, just so that people can visualize like how they actually might do this right after
Sure.
they're done watching or listening to this?
Well, first of all, anybody who has a kitchen or cooking area, I didn't make up what you need to do to get that under control to do what you want to do in your cooking. I recognized it. The first thing you need to do is recognize what's off. You come into your kitchen, oh my God, the kids have thrown it out of control, or oh, I forgot I didn't clean up last night, but I got guests coming over, or I want to cook a nice dinner for my family tonight. You walk in and go, oh my God, what's the first thing? You notice what's not where it needs to be, the way it needs to be. You capture or clarify what has your attention about that situation, right? Then what do? Well, then wait a minute. Is that a clean dish? Is that a dirty dish? That's a spice. Oh, that's good food, and whatever. So you start to notice what's off or not on cruise control. Step 2, which is clarify. So first step is capture. Identify what's off or what's got your attention. Step 2, what is that? What's the nature of that thing that's off? What's the nature of it? Step 3, where do I put those things? That's dirty dishwasher. Oh, that's spice, goes where spices go. Oh, that's good food, goes back in the fridge. So step 3, organize. Once I decided what these things have my attention mean, and they're not where they need to be, where do I put them so they are where they need to be? Step 3, that's organize. Step 4 is review or reflect. Let me look across. Okay, everything okay. Okay, I've got friends coming over, or I've got a family I need to cook dinner for, or whatever. You look at the time, look at the context. Okay, what's next? And then you engage, step 5. So then you go, okay, let me go pull out butter and melt it because I need to do whatever. So you did the process of capture, clarify, organize, reflect, and engage. Every time you get any situation more clarified and under control, you go through these steps. That's how you get your kitchen under control. It's how you get your company under. It's how you get your consciousness under control.
Yeah.
And most people don't do those. They do a little bit of those, but they don't do them like you would do if you were a French chef.
Yeah. So if I were
they have a phrase called mise en place. Before you even ring the bell for dinner tonight in the restaurant, everything had better be in a place. Everything. What do we need? Everything's been in its place, because it's going to get crazy. And when it gets crazy, you can't have all that other stuff out of control.
So if I were to walk through it now, so the process of capture. Okay, so capture, the way that you capture, I think you said you basically just write everything down. So everything that's in your mind that has your attention. So in my case, I have a phone call at 10 o'clock. I'm doing a chess lesson. I got to walk the dogs. You got to think about dinner, pick up the kids. So I would write all of this stuff down. That would be
well, come on, the dog, pawing at you you don't have to write that down. They're going to tell you. So you only need to write down what you wouldn't remember if you hadn't had some sort of a reminder.
Okay. So like I need
that's not already in the system.
Okay.
You don't need to write down when you need to pee. Come on, that'll tell you. You don't need to write down when you need to do dinner. That'll come on, that'll tell you. So there are tons of things we need to do that sort of our life experience and our systems and our processes automatically make happen. So those things don't need to be written down. Okay. Only the things, oh my God, I forgot that. Okay, well, why? That's the stuff that needs to be written down.
Okay.
We have a new puppy, by the way. So we're writing down every time she pees and poops. because we can't remember that. And, you know, she's on a cycle where we need to manage that. So, you know, for our apartment breaking, if we're in an apartment. So you just have to decide, what do I need to keep track of and how to be reminded of that. But anything else, no, a lot of stuff's on automatic, and you don't need to write that down.
And then after you write it down, so you put everything down into Asana on a piece of paper, what's the clarify? How does that actually come to life?
Well, it depends on what you wrote down. If what you wrote down is not the next thing you need to do about it, then you need to clarify what you need to do about what you wrote down.
Okay.
If either of you have a to-do list, pull it out. And very probably what you have on that to-do list are not the specific things you need to do about any of those things you wrote down. You have not yet clarified what you need to do about mom's birthday, or the bank account, you know, change, or the, you know, or handle, you know, or should we adopt, or how do we handle mom's elder care now? You may have written those down. That'd be rare if you'd written those down. But even so, you haven't decided what's next.
Yeah. So it has to be an action.
It has to be, is there an action required? And if so, what is it?
Okay.
It could be something there's no action required. Oh, that's just information. That was Sarah's birthday that I just wrote down, or somebody to let me know. Let me just park that somewhere, that I'll, you know, see that where I track birthdays. Or it may be, we need to do something about Sarah's birthday. In which case I say, okay, what's the next step? Oh, God, I haven't decided that yet. That's right. So a lot of to-do lists create as much stress as they relieve, because they just remind you of things you still haven't decided about what you're going to do about them. That's the clarify step.
So David, I'm very curious to ask you if you've had any surprising reactions to your book. It's been out for a few years now. I know you revised it, but from working parents, particularly entrepreneurial parents, we have 2 little kids. Life is super chaotic with COVID. A lot of the resources that you would go to prior, they're just closed. So basically, working parents are just doing double shifts all the time. So I'm curious to know if you've had young parents that are working embrace the book, or any advice you have for them to how to live a little less chaotic life, more stress-free, when really the only constant is just chaos with little kids.
Help us, David.
Well, yeah, this stuff works the best in chaos. So a lot of people who've integrated this methodology already are going, oh, thank God I had this already in my toolkit, so that I could deal with the change as fast as it happened, and then sit down and quickly integrate new stuff, integrate new focus, integrate new projects and outcomes I want to have achieved, and get on top of those. You're not going to get rid of that. You know, that's going to happen 100 years from now when we fly to Jupiter. There's no difference in the what you need to do to get on top of your world. It's called, what is your world? Your world is very different than your neighbor's world. Trust me. It's not about that. By the way, the world is fine. Look outside. It's not overwhelmed. It's not confused. It's not out of control. It's doing exactly what it does. It's only your relationship to that world that's the issue. So you have to get clear about what your relationship to that world is. So what have you guys committed to? What are all the things you might want to do, should do, might need to do, need to handle, need to finish, need to take care of, you know, et cetera. And, you know, that's just what this process is. So I didn't make this up. I just recognized what you need to do if you want to get clear about your commitments and step on top of them instead of be buried by them.
So it's your relationship to whatever's going on. It's not necessarily what is going on, it's how do you feel about it? Is that what I'm hearing?
Sure. It's not just how you feel about it. Forget your feelings. It's like, well, what I'm talking about is going to affect how you feel about it, right? If you feel that's terrible, and I go, well, wait, what do you want to have true? I guess we need to get clear about X, Y, Z. Well, great. Now you got an outcome. What's your next step? What do you need to do to get clear about that? Oh, I need to talk to my life partner. or I need to surf the web about X, Y, Z. So even though you don't like it and it's pushing on you, now you're in the driver's seat about it instead of being the victim of it. That's what I teach.
Yeah, it reminds me of just next best action, which life can feel so overwhelming. But what you do, you kind of remind me of a monk, to be honest, where you're just like simplifying and you're removing chaos and you're simplifying and making things very clear.
Yeah, but this is not about rice bowl and cave. I love good Chardonnay. I love having a complex life. I love doing all kinds of things. I just don't want them to be distracting me from whatever I'm doing. So I'm a freedom guy. What do I need to do to get that clear so I'm not distracted by my other commitment that I can't handle in the moment that allows me to be present with whatever I'm doing? That's my driver. And that's what drove me to create this methodology and to present it called You Want to Be Clear and Present, which is your most productive and healthiest state to be in, whether you're cooking spaghetti, tucking your kids into bed, watching them play soccer without being on your iPhone, or writing a business plan or having a difficult conversation to fire somebody. I don't care where that is and what those situations are, the clearer you are, so your head is not distracted by all the other ambient anxiety that's created by all these other commitments you haven't managed appropriately. That's the state to be in.
I was just going to ask you about ambient anxiety because I saw, something you mentioned in a couple of your talks and podcasts in the book. Can you explain what ambient anxiety is? Because I think it's something that a lot of people...
No, it's pretty simple. You have a cat, you need cat food. You haven't managed that appropriately. It wakes you up at the room 3 o'clock. Oh my God, we need cat food. And 6,000 or 600 probably, or probably 150 other things like that you say, I would, could, should, need to handle that. I haven't done exactly what I need to do. I need to be reminded. I don't know what to do. It's the stress of essentially infinite opportunity. Wherever you guys are sitting right now, if that caught into fire, you're building wherever you are is starting. Oh my God, there are lights, alarms going off or whatever. You're not going to worry about tires on your car. You're not even going to worry about cat food. You're going to be highly focused on what you need to do to get to where you want to be, which is live and not burn up. The problem is when that kind of crisis is done, then you have all the demons at the gate that come rushing through. Oh my God, you could do this. You could do this. Well, what about this? And you could do this thing. Yeah, but is that the best thing to do? Oh my God. And so it's more of the opportunity you have, the more stress you'll create. And that's the ambient anxiety. How many things could I, would I, should be, might, ought to be doing right now instead of talking to me?
Nothing. Just talking to you, David.
So what?
By the way, let me caution you there. If that's true, then you're cool. You don't need to do anything else. It's about being present. But when you stop talking to me, are you that clear about what you do next? And that's the thing. Yeah. How many other things could you be doing once you stop talking to me? Right? And there's the issue. How well do you manage that sort of context of opportunities and possibilities and things to do and stuff I haven't yet decided about, but I need to handle that and I need to handle that. And so it's the commitments, it's the overwhelming commitments people have made that they're not aware of that they've made, that they're not completing and not managing appropriately, that's creating the ambient anxiety. And that's the sort of it's this subtle sense of stress that you can't find the source.
Yeah.
So speaking of that subtle sense of stress that you can't find the source, a big challenge for people, especially women, is likability at work. And I used to work at a Fortune 100 company as an executive. I really struggled with this because the rules are not always clear. Like you need people at work to like you, but it's not clear how that's done. Now we live in the age of social media where it's like me, like me, like me, and it's a lot of noise. So what advice do you have for people that know that likability is important for their survival, but it also creates a lot of noise and it's not necessarily productive.
Yeah, real simple. Grow up.
Okay.
I like that.
Yeah, you'll learn.
What does that
No,
mean?
you'll learn. You'll learn. Go follow your likes until they don't work,
Yes.
right? It's a good idea, though, if you want to get a little clearer about what you want to do. Say, well, where would you like to be 3 years from now? What would you like to be doing in terms of lifestyle and career or job, right? So what are you doing about that? You know, or is what you're doing moving you toward that, away from that, or are you just avoiding that? I don't care, but I'm suggesting that if you want to get really clear and really present, the mindfulness people are teaching that. Get present, focus on your breathing and good stuff. But it's hard to get present if you haven't got those kind of agreements clear with yourself or acknowledge that. By the way, you don't have to. You don't have to set goals. You don't have to have any of those answers. Go range around, bop around in life and see what it teaches you. Right?
Was there a moment that you realized that as a young man, or is that something inherently new when you grew up?
No, it just took a lot of years of my own self-exploration and self-development stuff that I did with myself about who I was and what was honest about me and what was true about me, and how do I then manage this, and how do I manage this in life, and then what do I do to stay clear and stay present with myself and get free in my head about stuff. And so I started to learn different pieces of this methodology just for myself to be able so I could stay free in a very complex life and not be bothered, by things that shouldn't take up more attention than they should. And so I just discovered piece by piece this stuff back in the early 1980s. It took me about 3 or 4 or 5 years to start to really go, bring together several things I'd learned. And by that time, I'd had my own consulting practice and using those techniques with my clients, and they produce the same results, very positive, powerful results. And so then that became, somebody recognized me from the big corporate world and said, wow, we need that in a whole company. Can you design something around this as a training or whatever about what you've come up with? And I said, okay, I'll do that. And it was highly successful. And then in 1983, 84, I wound up thrust into the corporate training world with this thing I'd uncovered, mostly for myself personally, then it had pretty much, tested it with people around me about how they could handle their world much better and much clearer so they could get back to this sort of free space inside, which I love. And so that's still my driver at age 75. I'm still going, what's in the way of clear space? And I still deal with that. Same with the same techniques that I uncovered, 40 years ago, 35 years ago.
Hey, it's just a quick reminder to check out my brand new PDF, thefutureemployee.com, which looks at how employees are evolving and changing and what you as an organization need to do to evolve and adapt. You'll get a complete breakdown of what that evolution looks like, as well as action items that you should be taking. It's an invaluable resource and you can grab it at thefutureemployee.com. Again, that's thefutureemployee.com. And now back to the show. It seems like also a big part of the getting things done process is your ability to say no. So whether you have a full-time job and you're saying no to your managers, whether you're saying maybe no to members of your team, but you're trying to kind of create some of that space, right? So that you can focus on the things that you need to get done. So do you have any advice or suggestions for how people can do a better job of saying no, especially if it's to a manager or a friend or a family member?
Yeah, good question. First of all, you guys are saying no to how many things right now? But you're talking to me instead of what? Do you know what those are?
Yeah.
Could you show me right now a list of each one of the things you guys are not doing right now that you think you should be at some point? If you can't do that, you're going to have a hard time telling me no, because you're not sure what all the other stuff is that you're saying me know about. So understanding all the commitments you have makes it a lot easier to then make that no decision for yourself personally. If you have a boss or you're in the situation you said, yeah, hey, gee, boss, these are way cool projects you just gave me. Can I show you what I've currently got on my plate? And can we talk? Because I can't do all of these. I need to let something go to be able to do these well. Help me out. Some version of that conversation is critical, but you won't have that conversation, even as comfortable as you think your culture is to have a boss that you could have that conversation with, unless you have your full project list.
Somebody on my team did that to me. So somebody on my team, I tend to throw a lot of things at her all the time. And she finally had a lot of stuff on her plate. And she came back to me and she said, Jacob, you sent a lot of projects my way. Which ones do you want me to prioritize? And that got me to really think like, okay, well, which ones do I really need to get done right away versus which ones can wait? And so, instead of just saying no to me, she forced me to create a priority list for her of what she should focus on first, and then second and third. And I thought that was a very, very clear. She probably got that from your book. I should ask her about that.
I don't know, but she was your trainer.
Yep. It helped a lot.
What you're saying is basically to look at as much as what you're saying no to as what you're actually doing. And I think what I've seen, at least, especially with women, is they struggle to say no. And rather than say no, they'll just take on everything. So to me, saying no does require self-esteem, actually. It's saying I'm worth it. I deserve the time and space to give the gift of my attention, my focus. But that requires self-esteem rather than just kind of being bullied and just say yes.
Not just self-esteem, but self-awareness of what your commitments already are. Ultimately, we say yes to something, you're going to ultimately say no to it if you've been overwhelmed and you can't deliver. So ultimately, it becomes how mature can you be about the commitment you make and your intelligence about, what your bandwidth is. And then being able to say, God, that's a cool thing. Let me look at all the other stuff I have to do. By the way, if you can take a maybe on that till I get back to you, that's what I'll give you. If you have to have an answer now, got to be no. Or check with me again in a month. Those are conscious professional conversations. And anybody who's just, that's how they grow up, that's what growing up a lot is being much more conscious about what those things are and the price of commitments made but not kept.
There was an article, I don't know if you saw this or not, but there was an article that came out last year in the New Yorker called The Rise and Fall of Getting Things Done. Not sure if you saw it. And I'm sure there have been a lot of people who have critiqued your approach over the years because you do need a very structured, process-centric approach to get everything done. And some people have been arguing that in today's world, it doesn't make sense anymore. You can't be so process-centric and rigid. What do you say to a lot of the people who say, you know what, this maybe worked 20 years ago, but with technology and this connected world that we're all a part of, we just can't think in such a structured flowchart kind of way?
Fine. Have fun.
Simple enough.
I'm not a preacher. I'm not trying to convince anybody. I'm just saying if you want a clear head, totally, these are the things I've come up with. There's no simpler way to get there. And if you got a better way to do it, let me know. I'll teach it and then I'll write the next book. Haven't heard anybody do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's something about saying something out loud or writing it down that it seems to set it in stone in a way. And like it's different than just thinking it. So is that really the beauty of what you're prescribing, that write it down, say it out loud, make
thinking it, there's thinking called, that's a cool thing to think about. We might need cat food. I don't care if the cat dies or not. I don't care. Yeah, they're fine. And if I don't get cat food, they're going to claw me in my face. So there's two ways to think about something. There's a think about it called that's just fun to think about. Might be something to mature my thought process about. So I do that all the time. Look, we all have 50,000 thoughts a day. You haven't written any of them down. I've written 2 down, probably. So it's not about writing everything down. It's just about deciding, wait a minute, is that something I might need, would, could, should need to decide or do something about? And if you're keeping that in your head's a crappy office. Read any of the, I can give you 5 books that have been written in the last 10 years from the cognitive scientists who've discovered and recognized your brain's a crappy office. It did not evolve to remember, remind, prioritize, or manage relationships between more than 4 things. Look at all the apps you're using, bank accounts and whatever. How do they sort the numbers? Usually into 3 or 4 max. Right? That's your brain. Your brain can handle that short term. So there's something about your brain's ability to manage that stuff. I'm not a preacher. You can do whatever you want, but I guarantee you, if you're sitting down to do mindfulness stuff and focus on your breathing, but you still need cat food, it's going to pop in your head. Right? Unless you write it on a Post-it on the fridge that whoever's going to go to the store next will buy cat food, then it's off your mind. So, sorry guys, here's a big duh. If you guys are keeping a calendar, why? Why?
You want to answer or?
Yeah, why?
Well,
I'm gonna let you grilled her.
No, let your mind do it. No, why keep a calendar?
my mind is, you say the mind is a crappy office. I think my mind is like an office that's been blown over in a hurricane. Like if I just think about it, like for me, my calendar is so critical. We have so much.
Why have a calendar? Why don't you do it in your head?
Like I said, remember the hurricane image? It's not.
Well, why not keep all the rest of it out of your head, like your calendar?
Yeah, you've taken it a step further. It kind of reminds me of Marie Kondo, the professional organizer, where, you know, she's anti-hoarding, and it kind of, for me, is like a visual of what you're talking about, that everything should have the place, it should be put away just to decrease chaos.
Well, just to give your brain, cognitive real estate, so you could do strategic, intuitive, creative thinking, as opposed to remembering, reminding, and trying to figure out all this stuff.
Yeah.
The external brain is much better for that. Like a gazillion times better than that. That's why you have a calendar. That's why I ask you, why do you have a calendar? Your head can't do it.
Yeah.
So
random things pop into my head.
Your head can't do it. It can't remember all the errands you need to run, all the stuff you need to talk to your life partner about, all the stuff that you might want to surf the web about. It can try, but it'll remind you those at 3 a.m. when your computer's not on. So your head actually doesn't have, your brain doesn't have one. It's kind of a stupid computer. If your brain had a brain, it would only remind you of things when you could do something about them.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say,
if you have something that needs batteries, right? When does your brain remind you need batteries? When you have that thing that needs them. How about if your brain just said, I don't need to remind myself there. I need, when I walk into a store that has those batteries, that's what I'll be reminded of, that I need them. That's efficient. That then frees up the cognitive real estate that's been taken up by, oh my God, I need batteries. Oh my God, I need batteries. Oh my God, I need batteries. Mm-hmm. And most people have no concept of how much subliminal cognitive real estate is being taken up by all of those inappropriately engaged commitments they've got in their life and work.
Yeah, I suppose
that's all I figured out. How to get back to clear space. I love clear space. I'm a clear space guy.
Yeah.
And I think a sign of this is probably when these random things just pop into your mind, right? So, I mean, that happens to me all the time during the day. If I'm doing a chess lesson, if I'm trying to go to sleep at night, I remember, I should review this document. When I wake up tomorrow, I got to send this email. And that's probably a classic example of what happens when you don't do this.
Yep.
Well, one question before we jump into some fun rapid fire questions for you, and that's for people who are listening and watching this, right after they're done, what are some steps that they should do right away, besides buying your book, of course, to start to be more productive and to focus on getting things done? If you were to give people just a couple action items for what to do.
Pen and paper. Anything pops into your mind. I need to get divorced. Should we adopt? I need to hire a vice president. I need cat food. Right? Get it out of your head. All of those. Step 1 is capture. Step 2 is look at each one of those things, decide what exactly would I need to do about figuring out whether we should adopt or not, or buy cat food. What's the next thing that would be required? Once you make that decision, say, if I can't finish that in this moment, where do I need to park some reminder that me or the appropriate person will see that, so that I don't have to be remembering or reminding that needs to happen. It's already in a system. Some sort of external list manager, if you will, personally. And then make sure that you review things on a regular basis. If nothing else, write stuff down, decide some next actions, and then at least once a week, look back on your life and say, what are all the things I need to do? So, capture and some version of decision making about action required, and some level of review about all that context of all that stuff. Those are if you did nothing else, that's going to improve anybody's life.
Sounds good.
And by the way, most people are not doing those.
Yeah.
So, and it's not, they're not hard. Not some foreign language or new technology you need to learn. You need to just learn how to recognize what has your attention that's not right or not appropriate or not on cruise control, and identify that, and then identify what you're going to do about it, and then have some sort of system that reminds you what you need to do.
That's great. Yeah. We have a few more minutes. We've gotten quite a bit of comments for you. It seems like people it's not as much questions as just like loving the focus on what you're saying, but let's see.
Well, this one from Diane Wilson, and we got one from Brian Kelly. Yeah, we have a few questions. I'll read this one from Diane Wilson because I think it's pretty good. She says, what if it's not even knowing where to start? Lots of things to do, need to do, and some days are just overwhelming. Yet during this stay-at-home time, there's a growing pressure to be productive, aka, so what did you do, learn, accomplish, etc.? So it seems like her question is,
she doesn't even know where to start. Yeah. She's just overwhelmed.
What if it's not even know where to start?
Just sit down, take an hour, and unload everything off your mind you would ought to be doing. Just make a list. Everybody listening to this or watching this has at some point felt confused and overwhelmed, made a list and felt better. That's your first start. Just get it out of your head. Just get a little more objective sense of all those options. See, any one thing can make your life feel overwhelming if you haven't got it objectified and gotten in control of it.
Yeah.
Any one thing could be, and it'll make your whole life feel overwhelming. So make the list. Everybody's made a list and felt more in control and more comfortable. The world didn't change. What you did was you changed how you engage with your world. So the first step in engaging with the world is identifying what's got your attention. There are a lot of things you don't need to write down, but like your blood pumping and your breathing and your refrigerator works, and there are a lot of things that you don't need to write down, although they're important. It's the things that have your attention. Oh my God, I need cat food. The refrigerator is broken, or whatever. And that's the stuff you need to get out of your head, get it out in front of you, and just see what it is. Otherwise, it's spinning around subliminally in there. That's the source of the ambient anxiety, is all that internal spinning about all the potential things you be doing, but you can't see what they all are. And so you think it could be anything. And there's psychologically, that's a great way to feel stressed.
I was going to say, it sounds stressful.
And thinking about what you're saying today, I'd like everybody to just even imagine if they implemented what David's talking about. Like, imagine what you could create without all of that weight and mess in your mind. Like, maybe you'll create something incredible without all of the hindrances.
Ambient anxiety.
Without the ambient
anxiety. I like that.
So we've reached the end of our time together, but we do have a couple fun questions for you. I'll let Jacob ask the first one, just whatever comes to mind. And let's start with the island.
All right. So if you were stuck on an island and could only have one food or drink, what would it be?
Pina coladas.
That's the food and the drink?
That's it. That's all I need.
There's calories in there. You could survive on that.
What's your most embarrassing moment at work?
Good question. I can't remember being really embarrassed at work about anything. Don't know. Most embarrassing at work. My most at my work is being on stage, and doing a lot of other stuff and other kinds of things. Probably the most embarrassing would be if I maybe had too much to drink and sort of slurred what I was saying in a way that's like, that probably wasn't the best thing to say. So, probably at that level.
All right.
Yeah.
What's your greatest joy?
Being present and feeling at one with whatever's going on in the universe, and that it's all fine.
If you could have lunch with one person, dead or alive, who would it be?
Abraham Lincoln, probably.
And last two questions for you. Who's the greatest band of all time?
The greatest band of all time?
Yep.
That's a good question. I just don't know. Hard to not say the Beatles, because I grew up, I grew up in that generation. Yeah, I said the Beatles.
All right.
And lastly, if you had $1 billion, what would you do with it first?
I buy an absolutely fabulous bottle of 1945 Margaux wine, which was my birth year. That apparently was an incredible year for wine and the Margaux wine. And that'd probably be the first thing I do.
We could probably buy a case, actually. You don't need to just get one bottle.
No, I wouldn't spend the rest of that on that. But that'd be the first thing I'd buy if I had that kind of resource. Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, David, where can people go to learn more about you, your book, anything that you want to mention? I know there's tons of resources on your site out there. So anything for people to check out?
Now, just gettingthingsdone.com. Just go there and you'll surf around. You can see a lot of things. If you're interested, depends on where you are in the world. We have we have certified trainers and consultants doing virtual stuff now, given the pandemic, that is deeper work inside of this methodology all over the world. So if you go to our site and then click on training and coaching, you'll see, just type in your country and you'll see people we've certified that do that work there. And so create some local connections that do much deeper work with this stuff. That's wonderful. If you want to get into it, it's great stuff to do. So that's a great path. And that we have a free newsletter that you can sign up for there or whatever. Just surf the site, see whatever interests you, rings your bell. That's a great way to play.
Cool. Well, David, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to speak with us. We really, really appreciate it.
Yeah, we learned a lot.
Yeah, my pleasure, guys. Thanks for the invitation.
Of course. And thanks everyone for tuning in. Again, our guest has been David Allen, best-selling author of Getting Things Done, the stress-free productivity, the art of stress-free productivity. So check out his book, check out his resources, and we will see all of you next week. Thanks for watching. Thanks again for tuning into today's episode. Please remember to rate and review the podcast on Apple Podcasts or whatever your preferred channel is. I cannot express how important those reviews and ratings are to the success of this show, and they keep allowing me to bring back amazing guests. Lastly, don't forget to check out the brand new PDF that I just put out, which looks at the evolution of the employee. In other words, how employees are evolving and changing and what you as an organization should do to adapt. You'll get a complete breakdown of what that evolution looks like, as well as action items that you can and should be taking. That PDF is available at thefutureemployee.com. And if you want to reach out to me for whatever reason, whether it's inviting me to speak, sponsoring the show, or just giving me some feedback, you can always do so. My email is jacob@thefutureorganization.com. Again, that's jacob@thefutureorganization.com. Thanks again for tuning in, and I will see you next time.